Hey, you crazy cats, welcome to Leaving Crazy Town, where we navigate the roller coaster of relationships, mental health, and personal transformation with humor as our trusty seatbelt.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and with my buddy Finn, we're here to share our real stories, expert insights, practical tips to help you break free from codependency, reclaim your life, and find freedom.
So whether you're wrestling with boundary issues, craving connections that won't ghost you, or just here for a front row seat to the wild ride of self-discovery, you've come to the right place.
So buckle up, we're leaving Crazy Town.
Hi, welcome to Leaving Crazy Town with Finn and
Sarah.
Sarah.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Sarah, what are we going to talk about this week?
This week, we are going to give a couple of tools for dealing with anger. Anger is our topic this week, and it's not necessarily an easy thing for people for a variety of reasons. One is it's not that comfortable. Sometimes it scares us. Sometimes it reminds us of our childhood. Sometimes we don't even know we're having it, and we use all kinds of other ways to deal with it. Sometimes we overreact. Sometimes we underreact. Sometimes we deny and pretend it's not happening, which doesn't work. So we are going to give a couple of tools on how to deal with anger that we are recognizing.
Right. And the first tool we're going to discuss today is pausing, right?
Pausing.
All right.
Which is part of the program. And I mean, I think, what does it say in the big book? Pause, pray, and proceed, or it just says pause?
Pause when agitated.
Pause when agitated or doubtful. That's right. So it's a really good tool, and it's not the easiest things to do, especially, and we were discussing this earlier, when you're seriously activated in your body. So I was going to give an example of a pause, which was really difficult. It's just a quick example. But last year, I had to find an attorney to publish the book, a publishing attorney. And I'd gotten a few names, and my brother got me a name of a woman in New York, and blah, blah, blah. She was this well-known person. Anyways, we had a phone appointment, and I got on the phone with her. Finn knows the story because I called him immediately. And within 5 minutes, I was in a rage. And I, in my body, wanted to kill her. And the reason was my perception of what she was saying to me was like I was invisible, like I was a nobody, like I was not important. There was all kinds of things that got activated. And I was on the phone with her. And because I've been doing this work a while, I knew it would not be the greatest thing to start screaming and yelling at this publishing attorney. So I noticed the feelings in my body, and that's what happens with rage. It really happens physiologically. We feel it in our bodies, and that's why it's hard not to just act out in some way. So I took some deep breaths, another thing to do when you're trying to pause. And I say to myself, this isn't about her, because we've learned through this work and codependency work that our anger is all ours. So I know it's not about her. After a little while, I realized I could calm down enough to say to her, you know, it sounded like this wasn't going to work out. And I can't remember the exact words, but I said, you know, thanks for your time. And I learned how to do that. And I got off the phone. And then I felt my feelings of rage, and I called a friend. And then I did what Finn's going to talk about, which is the turnaround. I looked at what was going on for me underneath the rage. Because if some of you have read the book, we talked a lot about what's underneath the rage, which is sadness, anger, irritability, really fear and powerlessness at the bottom. So,
and this is the book Sarah's talking about.
Right. That's the book. So Finn's going to give a great example of his own experience this week where he processed it. And this will be helpful to people to learn how to process some anger or resentment. And take it away, Finn.
All right, take it away. So typically I don't respond as well sometimes to my resentments as I did to this. I happen to be in a really good space, so it was a little bit easier for me to respond the way I did. I was on a meeting with like 40 or so people on a Zoom meeting, and I don't know like if everyone knows this, probably don't, but I'm transgender and I started transitioning about a year and a half ago. So usually transition, it's considered like a second puberty and it takes like 5 years. And one of my biggest insecurities is how I have hair here, but you can't really see it on Zoom because it's light. And, I want to have a full beard and I have hair here. And when I was on this meeting, this is something I'm insecure about and I'm just trying to own it. I'm like, I'm growing out my hair anyway, even though you can't see it on Zoom. And I spend a lot of time on Zoom. So it's an insecurity. It's something that I know exists and I'm just going to own it. And I was on a meeting, and when a person was sharing on the meeting, they not only did they like start talking about my face, they were misgendering me. So they were saying, "Oh, look, Finn," in their share was about their problem. It had nothing to do with me, but they start pointing out about Finn shaves her face in
Mm,
the front and has and like is going on about this thing that I have such insecurity about. And my
mm,
immediate reaction was like, I will blankety blank deck this guy. Like I wanted to run actually. I was ready to but I was hosting the meeting, so I
right.
couldn't leave. And I felt such excruciating, like my whole body was like in flight mode. And then I went into fight mode. And I literally actually did what Sarah did to actually get to the place where I could look at what was going on. And I didn't do anything. I just paused. And I
Mm,
was like reeling in my head. And, so he's like, oh, look, Finn shaves her face in the front and and I'm just like, oh my God, is this guy really talking about like something I'm already insecure about? And now I feel like 40 people on the meeting are all looking at me. It was so
oh,
humiliating and I was
right.
so mad. So the meeting ended and I was looking at like what, you know, the thoughts I was having about it were that everyone else was looking at me and that he was pointing it out. I didn't think he was doing it on purpose because he's not that kind of guy, but I definitely went down this like whole squirrely path of he's outed me as transgender to people that don't know. He's talking like everyone's looking at me now and they all know that I look like I look like a fool. I mean, I had all this stuff. I
Oh,
was so embarrassed and I wanted to lash out, but reality is um acting out and like saying anything or running from the meeting wasn't
right.
going to change the scenario. So
Yes.
I looked at it like, all right, there's a little kid in me that has this fear of not being loved and accepted and not being right. And, that was really what was going on. That was being activated for me. And then my history, if somebody hurts my feelings or puts me in a situation like that, I don't usually say anything because I'm like, it happened, it's over. And in this scenario, I decided that I would actually talk to him, not in a rage, not whatever. So I asked for help and I called him and ended up telling him that, I think this is why crosstalk is frowned upon. And I told him my experience. I said, it's an area where I'm feeling really insecure. And I felt like, and I asked him, I set a boundary. I said, I would appreciate it when you share. You don't talk about my appearance or my life. I'm happy to talk to you anytime you want in private, one on one about anything, but not in front of everyone. I
Right.
felt embarrassed and humiliated.
Right.
And normally I have tremendous amount of guilt saying stuff like that because now I've got another person who's not going to like me. But the options were to tell him how I felt and set a boundary or block him out of my life and
Right.
hold on to the resentment. And I didn't want
Oh,
to do that. And
right.
I want the freedom today. It doesn't matter if he changes. Hopefully he has a better awareness about, when you're sharing things, you don't know what's going on for other people. And also it helps remind me of that. But
Yeah.
he responded really well to my boundary, but he also responded in a way like I feel so ashamed and then started spiraling down and I'm not owning that. That's not
Yes.
I didn't tell him things in a mean way. I was very compassionate about it and how he responds to my boundaries up to him. But the other thing I noticed after everything was over is I don't eat sugar and I'm in a food program as well. And I wanted pans and pans of brownies.
Mm,
And I was like, I don't even, I was telling Sarah, like, I don't even know why I want to eat brownies. I don't feel like there's anything wrong. And as I was saying it, I realized like that little kid in me that's insecure is like curled up in a ball and wants to suck his thumb and wants some brownies. Because
Right.
guess what? I remember years ago being consoled with food and sugar, and it makes me feel good for a
Right.
second. And instead, I decided to have some tasty tea and just like, be
Yes.
honest about how I'm feeling. So I don't know if that was a good job explaining
Yeah.
it, Sarah, or
You
you.
said so many important things. I'm just going to do a couple of comments on it. So many important things. One is when you were initially talking about it, you said he said this thing, and I'm sure he didn't mean it. And that's one huge thing we talk about with the turnaround. And this is an Al Anon thing. Whatever comes out of someone else's mouth is about them, not us. And a lot of times, someone will say something and we'll immediately get angry because we're hurt by it. But remembering NAM for short, it's not about me, that really what he's talking about is his own stuff. It was about you, but for whatever reason, he felt the need to do it. It's really about him. That was the first thing. Really important. The second thing was setting a boundary, which to me, anger can happen very often when a boundary is violated, like this exact example. Sometimes when our boundaries get violated, we have an anger response, which is normal. And it's important to look at, gee, what is this reminding me of? But also trying to set the boundary today, which is what you did. And again, you gave us great examples of, gee, in the past, maybe I would fight or flight. I'd get really upset, or I'd take off, or I'd say, I'm never speaking to them again. And exactly what you said is so important, which is if it's someone that I'm going to see regularly or that I have a relationship with, why would I continue to be resentful and suffer myself? Like that's the irony with anger and resentment is when we're holding a resentment, we are suffering. And by communicating it and processing it, you clean up your side of the street and then they can do whatever they want with it. So with codependency, I always say this, that it not only helps you to speak up, it helps the other person. Just like with addiction, it not only helps the person that's with an addict, but it helps the addict when you set boundaries or anybody in your life. So, really good example. Excellent.
Thank you.
And I hope you guys got something out of this. And these are just a couple of ways to deal with your anger if it comes up and really look at what it activates and what's underneath it. And a lot of times it's fear or sadness or grief, or like Finn said, humiliation, powerlessness. Really good.
Thanks, Sarah. All right,
Okay.
everybody.
We're leaving Crazy Town.
Thanks for listening to Leaving Crazy Town. We hope today's episode offered you valuable insights and tools to help navigate your relationship.
If you found our discussion helpful, please rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast. And share it with a friend. Misery loves company, right?
Stay connected with us on social media and visit our website for additional resources and updates on future episodes.
Until next time, remember that breaking free from codependency is a journey, and we're here to help you every step of the way. And hey, if all else fails, at least you'll have a few laughs.
So buckle up. We're leaving Crazy Town.